Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. And today we'll be discussing the NCERT exemplar questions for the chapter Cell the Unit of Life. Okay, so this is the part 1 of the lecture. Before starting the lectures, I want to give you one information that the images, text and other materials used in the presentations are for education purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners. If you are the owner and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@itk.ac.in and we shall remove the content immediately. Please note that parts of the content may have been generated using generative AI, which is experimental. So what are the objectives of today's session? So today we will understand the basic concepts related to the chapter Cell the Unit of Life by discussing the NCERT exemplar questions. Okay, so all of these questions, they are based on certain concepts. We will understand these concepts by discussing these questions. Okay, so we are going to discuss the NCERT exemplar questions. So these questions have been divided into following categories. So first one is multiple choice questions. Then you have very short answer type question, short answer type question and long answer type question. In total, there will be 20 questions. Okay, so we'll try to discuss all of these questions today. So let's begin with the session. So first we'll be discussing multiple choice questions. Okay. So question is, a common characteristic feature of plant sieve tube cells and most of the mammalian erythrocytes. So erythrocytes are also known as RBCs, red blood cells. Okay, what is the common feature of both of these cells? Let's have a look at the options. So first option is absence of mitochondria. Second is presence of cell wall. Third is presence of hemoglobin. Fourth is absence of the nucleus. What is the correct answer? Here, what would be the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. Okay, option number D is the correct answer here. So both of these cells lack a nucleus. Okay. So this is the thinking process. In prokaryotes, the genetic material is scattered and irregular and it is not membrane bound. Okay, in eukaryotic cell, well-defined nucleus is present and enclosed in a membrane called nuclear envelope. So they are saying in eukaryotes, nucleus is present. Now, sieve tube cells and mammalian erythrocytes, these are both eukaryotic cells. So actually nucleus should be present here. True nucleus should be present here. But the nucleus is absent here actually in both of these cells. Okay, so sieve tubes, they are the component of the phloem and they also do not consist of the nucleus. So these sieve tubes, they are supported by the companion cells. So these companion cells, they provide proteins to the sieve tubes. Similarly, erythrocytes, basically the mature erythrocytes, they lack nucleus. Okay, because RBCs, they carry oxygen. Okay, they carry oxygen. Clear? So nucleus is absent, so these RBCs can carry more oxygen. Clear? RBCs carry hemoglobin and hemoglobin binds to oxygen. Clear? It forms oxyhemoglobin. So to carry more oxygen, nucleus is absent in the RBCs. So erythrocytes are RBCs which help in the gaseous exchange. So next question is, you have to select one which is not true for the ribosomes. So options, first option is made up of 2 subunits, second is form polysome, third is may attach to mRNA, and fourth is have no role in the protein synthesis. So what will be the correct answer? Okay, you have to select a statement which is false for the ribosome. It is not true for the ribosome. So what will be the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. See, option number D is the correct answer here. Ribosomes, they play a very significant role in protein synthesis. And option number D, they have no role in protein synthesis. So this is not true for ribosomes. See, ribosomes are protein machinery. They play a very vital role in protein synthesis. Okay? Clear? Other statements are true. Ribosomes, they are made up of two subunits, large subunit and a smaller subunit. In prokaryote, 70s ribosomes are present. In eukaryote, 80s ribosomes are present. Okay? Both of these ribosomes have a larger subunit and a smaller subunit. Clear? Polyribosomes. So when multiple ribosomes attach to a single mRNA, this is known as polyribosomes. This can be seen in prokaryotes. Polysomes is also a synonym for polyribosomes. Okay? So both of these are correct actually. Polyribosomes and polysomes, they mean the same thing. Okay? The definition for both of them are same, that multiple ribosomes are attached to the single mRNA. Okay, so this allows multiple, you can say, simultaneous translation of the proteins, and multiple copies of the proteins are produced. Next is which one of these is not a eukaryote? Okay, options are Euglena, Anabaena, Spirogyra, and Agaricus. So what would be the correct answer here? Okay, let's have a look at the answer. C, option number B, Anabaena, is the correct answer. Okay, so cells can be characterized as prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, eukaryotic cell, they have a well-defined nucleus. Okay, prokaryote, they lack a true nucleus. Then prokaryote, they lack membrane-bound organelles. Eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles. In prokaryotes, nuclear envelope is absent, means true nucleus is absent. In eukaryotes, true nucleus is present, nuclear membrane is present. Okay. Now you can see Anabaena is a prokaryote. It doesn't have membrane-bound organelles. It doesn't have a true nucleus. Euglena, Spirogyra, and Agaricus, these are eukaryotes. They have membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria. They have well-defined nucleus also. Next one, which of the following stain is not used for staining the chromosomes? So chromosomes, they have to be stained. Okay. So to observe the chromosomes under the microscope, you have to stain the chromosomes. Which stain is used for staining the chromosome? Now options are basic fuchsin. Next is safranin. Option number C is methylene blue. And fourth is carmine. What is the correct answer? So let's have a look at the answer. C, option number B, safranin, is the correct answer. Okay. So staining is an auxiliary microscopic technique used to enhance the image contrast. Okay. Stains and dyes help observe structural details in biological tissues like cells, in microorganisms, in blood cells, in cell organelles. So you can even stain cell organelles like mitochondria. Mitochondria can be stained using Janus green dye. Okay, answer is safranin here. Safranin is used in gram staining. Okay, it is a counter stain used in gram staining, which gives pink color to the bacteria. And it is also used to stain the endospore. It can also be used for detection of cartilage, mucin, and mast cells granules. Okay, so safranin is not used for staining chromosomes. Now let's talk about carmine. Carmine is a basic dye. This is used to stain the nucleic acid and chromosomes. Okay. So you know that nucleic acid and chromosome, they have a negative charge. So DNA have a negative charge because of the phosphate. So carmine basically is used to stain the nucleic acid which have negative charge on them. It gives chromosomes a pink color, differentiating it from the other cellular organelles. So chromosomes, they are made up of, ultimately they are made up of DNA. Okay, or you can say chromatin. Now basic few change. So this is involved in staining of human chromosome, elastic fibers, cardiac or skeletal muscles tissue. Methylene blue, this is used to stain nucleus, Golgi bodies and peptic substances. Now next question is, so different cells have different sizes. Okay, you have to arrange the following cells in an ascending order of their size. And you have to choose the correct options from among the following. See, what are the options here? Okay, so a list of cells are given to you. You have to arrange these cells in ascending order of their size. First is mycoplasma, second is ostrich eggs, third is human RBCs, and fourth is bacteria. What would be the correct answer? See, options are given to you A, B, C, D. You have to choose the correct answer from these options. Okay, answer is option number A, 1/4, third, and second. Clear? So cells, they vary in their size, shape, and activities. Now, mycoplasma, this is the smallest living cell. Mycoplasma lack a cell wall. Okay, size is only 0.3 micrometer. Then bacterial cell, they are of size 0.5 to 5 micrometer. Okay. Then human RBCs, they are about 7 micrometer in diameter. Clear? And then comes the ostrich egg. So here you can see this is an image showing you mycoplasma. This is lacking a cell wall. This is the smallest living cells. And mycoplasma, they can also survive in anaerobic conditions as well. Okay, so mycoplasma is the smallest living cells, then bacteria, then human RBCs, and then the ostrich egg. Ostrich eggs are among the largest cells with size 15 into 13 centimeter. Okay, mycoplasma or mycoplasma-like organism, the smallest cell, followed by the size of the bacterial cell, and then the RBCs in this case, and then ostrich egg. This is the largest known cell. Ostrich egg is the largest known cell. Next is, which of the following features is common to prokaryotes and many eukaryotes? Okay, so you have to select a feature which is common to prokaryotes and many eukaryotes. Okay, not all eukaryotes, many eukaryotes. Okay, so options are chromatin material present. Second is cell wall present in both prokaryotes and many eukaryotes. Then next is nuclear membrane present, and fourth is membrane bound subcellular organelles present. What is the correct answer? So let's have a look at the answer. See, option number B, cell wall is present. This is the correct answer. So see, prokaryotes, they include bacteria. Bacteria consist of a cell wall made up of peptidoglycan. And many eukaryotes also, they also possess a cell wall, like fungi, plants, they have a cell wall. Animals, they lack cell wall. Okay, so bacteria, plants, they consist of cell wall. In animals, the cell wall is absent. What is the function of cell wall? It helps in protection. It provides protection and it provides shape to the cell. Okay, in plants, the cell wall is made up of cellulose. Majorly, it is made up of cellulose. Then a little bit of hemicellulose and pectins as well. Here, this is a cell wall structure. You can see this is the primary cell wall. Okay, Majorly, it is made up of cellulose, and in addition to cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin is also present. Okay. So genetic material in prokaryotes, naked DNA is present because there is no nuclear membrane, there is no true nucleus. So in prokaryotes, instead of nucleus, you have nucleoid, where the DNA is present, or DNA is attached to some positively charged proteins, which are histone-like proteins. And this DNA is, you can say, it is present in a region known as nucleoid. It is called naked DNA because it is not surrounded by any nuclear membrane. Eukaryotes, here the chromatin material is present within the nucleus. Let's talk about the organelles. Prokaryote, they have simple non-membrane bound organelles. Eukaryote, they have complex and membrane bound organelles which perform multiple functions. Next question is, who proposed the fluid mosaic model of the plasma membrane? So this is a very straightforward question. Who proposed the fluid mosaic model of plasma membrane? So options are Camillo, Golgi, Sechelidin and Sechpan, Singer and Nicholson, and Robert Brown. What is the correct answer? So let's have a look at the answer. See, option number C, Singer and Nicholson. This is the correct answer. Okay, so Singer and Nicholson proposed fluid mosaic model in 1972. It describes the cell membrane structure. Okay, it means it describes the plasma membrane structure. So plasma membrane, it is made up of phospholipid bilayer. Clear? So these lipid allows protein movements also within them. So within the plasma membrane, some integral proteins are also present. Integral proteins and peripheral proteins. Clear? So this phospholipid allows the movement of the protein as well as in the membrane. So that's why it is known as fluid mosaic model, because protein, they can move within the membrane. Okay, cell theory, this was given by Sechelidin and Sechpan in 1839. Okay, so they discovered plasma membrane also, and they proposed cell theory as well. Okay, so cell theory says that plants are made up of cells, animals are made of cells, and the cells arise from the pre-existing cells. Then Golgi in 1898, he discovered Golgi apparatus or Golgi complex. Then nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown in 1831. Clear? Now Fleming named this nucleus as chromatin. So next are very short answer type questions. So what is the first question here? What is the significance of vacuole in a plant cell? So plant cell, they consist of a large central vacuole. What is the significance of this vacuole? So what would be the correct answer? See, vacuoles, they are membrane bound space found in the cytoplasm. What do vacuoles contain? So they contain the water, they contain the sap, they contain the excretory product, or they store the excretory product, you can say, and other materials as well. Okay. In plant, vacuoles occupy around 90% of the volume of the cell. So these vacuoles in the plant cell helps in maintaining cell fluid balance. Okay. It is also helping in osmoregulation, you can see. They are helping in maintaining the shape of the cell by maintaining a turgor pressure. So see, turgor pressure okay, is very important for maintaining the shape of the cell. Okay. So these, you can say, vacuoles, they can store water also, you can see. Okay, so they help in maintaining the turgor pressure also. They store sap also and some excretory product as well. Okay, this is an image showing you vacuole. You can see this vacuole consists of the cell sap. Okay, this is the cell actually. The cell consists of the vacuoles, and you can see these vacuoles, they have a membrane known as the tonoplast. This tonoplast allows the entry of the molecules or entry of the ions within the vacuoles, and this is an energy driven process because it is happening against the concentration gradient. Next, what does S refers to 70S and 80S ribosome? So let's have a look at the answer. Okay, so S refers to Swedberg's unit for sedimentation coefficient. Now, sedimentation coefficient depicts that how fast a cell organelle sediments during the ultracentrifugation. Now, in cells heavier the structure, higher is the sedimentation coefficient. Value of S is equal to 10 raised to minus 3 seconds. Okay, S is the Swedberg's unit for sedimentation coefficient. Okay. Next is mention a single membrane bound organelle which is rich in hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, or digestive enzymes you can say. So what is the correct answer? Okay, so correct answer should be lysosomes. So lysosomes are the membrane bound vesicular structures formed by the Golgi apparatus. Now these vesicles on isolation have been found to be rich in all types of hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, what all enzymes are present? Hydrolase, lipases, proteases, carbohydrases, which digest carbohydrate proteins. Okay, lipids and nucleic acid as well at the acidic pH. Here you can see this image showing you lysosomes. So lysosomes are also known as suicidal bags of the cell. Okay, clear? Lysosome consists of hydrolytic enzymes. It can hydrolyze the biomolecules also. Okay, these lysosomes can digest the damaged cell as well. Next one, what are gas vacuoles, and you have to state their functions. Vacuoles can be of different type. One such vacuole is gas vacuole. Now, what is the importance of this gas vacuole? The second solution, you can see here the solution. So gas vacuoles are also known as pseudo vacuoles or air vacuoles. So gas vacuoles are the characteristic feature of the prokaryotes, means bacteria. Now, each gas vesicles are made up of submicroscopic hexagonal vesicles and are surrounded by a thin protein membrane. Now, gas vacuoles store metabolic gases and take part in the buoyancy regulation. So, gas vacuoles provide buoyancy to the organism. You can see this in this image. Gas vacuoles in the blue-green algae can be seen. Blue-green algae is also known as cyanobacteria. Here you can see these are the gas vacuoles. So let's have a look at the another question. You have to discuss briefly the role of nucleolus in the cells actively involved in the protein synthesis. Okay, we are talking about the nucleolus, not nucleus. So nucleolus is a region present within the nucleus. Okay, so what is the function? What is the role of the nucleolus? So let's have a look at the answer. See, nucleolus is a round and naked and a slightly irregular structure present in the nucleoplasm. Okay. Now it is attached to the chromatin at a specific region called a nucleolar organizing region known as NOR. Okay, nucleus was first discovered by Fontana in 1781, and nucleolus is the chief site for ribosomal RNA synthesis. So this is the function of the nucleolus. It is the site for the synthesis of ribosomal RNA. Ribosomal RNA is involved in the synthesis of the ribosomes. The larger and the smaller subunit of the ribosomes, they are made up of this ribosomal RNA. Okay, clear? So this nucleolus is attached where? It is attached to the chromatin at a specific region called nucleolar organizing region. Okay. Now it is the center for the formation of ribosome components. So ribosome is made up of ribosomal RNA such as 23S ribosomal RNA, which acts as an enzyme during you can say protein formation also. Okay. So it is a center for the formation of ribosome components. It is the colloidal complex that fills the nucleus. Here you can say this is the image showing you nucleus, and within the nucleus you have this nucleolus. Now next you have to discuss briefly the role of nucleolus in the cell activity involved in the protein synthesis. Okay, this we are discussing. It combines ribosomal RNA with proteins to produce ribosomal subunits. Okay, so you can see ribosomal RNA, it combines with the proteins to produce ribosomal subunits, large subunits and the smaller subunit. So it is helping in ribosomal assembly also, you can see. After their formation, ribosome subunit pass out and get established in the cytoplasm, where the translation occurs in the eukaryotes as well as the prokaryotes. It also receives and stores ribosomal proteins formed in the cytoplasm. So these ribosomal proteins formed are the site of protein synthesis in the cell. Nucleolus is essential for spindle formation during the nuclear division. Okay, so next is explain the association of carbohydrate to the plasma membrane and its significance. See, the plasma membrane consists of the phospholipid bilayer. It consists of proteins. It consists of some sugar molecules also, which are known as the carbohydrates. So why carbohydrate associated with the plasma membrane? You have to explain this. So let's have a look at the answer. See, carbohydrates are also associated with the plasma membrane. Okay, primarily through glycoproteins and glycolipids. And it is collectively known as glycocalyx. So glycocalyx is present in like bacteria. Okay, it usually make up less than 10% of the membrane weight. Now this forms the outermost layer of the cell membrane. Clear? So you can see here, this is the image showing you the fluid mosaic model of the plasma membrane. This is the phospholipid bilayer. Heads are toward the outside, tail are towards the inside. These are the integral proteins, and this is the peripheral proteins. Then you have the sugar molecules. So basically, sugar is present in the form of glycoproteins. Glyco is the carbohydrate part. Glycoproteins and glycolipids. Okay. Now, what is the significance of carbohydrate in the plasma membrane? See, first is cell recognition. So they help cell identify, interact with other cells. Next is cell adhesion. So it facilitates cell to cell attachment as well. Now it protects. So it acts as a protective barrier against the pathogen as well. The next is cell signaling. It participates in cell communication as well. Okay, it is involved in immune response also, means blood group determination, disease prevention, okay, development. Now you have to comment on the cartwheel structure of the centrioles. See, these centrioles, they are present within the centrosome. And centrioles, they are present where? Centrioles, they are present in the animal cells. Okay. So you have to talk about the cartwheel structure of the centriole. So let's have a look at the answer. Okay. So centrosome is an organelle which consists of two cylindrical structures called as centrioles, and these centrioles, they are arranged parallelly to each other. Okay, means 90 degree to each other. So there are two centrioles within the centrosome. Okay. Next, so they lie perpendicular to each other, in which each has an organization like that of an cartwheel. Now, a centriole possesses a whole of 9 peripheral fibrils. Okay, these fibrils are absent in the center, hence the arrangement is called 9 plus 0. Now, each fibril is made up of 3 subfibers. Okay, therefore called a triplet fibril. Now, centrioles form the basal part of the cilia and the flagella as well. It also forms spindle fibers that give rise to spindle apparatus during the cell division in the animals. Okay, you have to describe the cell theory. Okay, briefly describe the cell theory. So, Shishridin and Sachwan, they propose initial cell theory. So, all living beings consist of cells and cell products. Okay, so basically all living organisms are made up of the cell. Cell is the structure and functional unit of life. Okay. Now, what was the initial theory's limitation? So, the initial theory given by Sachilidin and Sachwan, they did not explain how the cell originated. Okay. Now, let's talk about the theory evolution. First is Nageli in 1846. So, the scientist gave original concept of the cell division. Virchow, he talked about the omnis cellula. E cellula means cells come from pre-existing cells. Okay, so their work established cell division as a key to life continuity. Okay, so cell theory was basically proposed by Sachilidin, Sachwan and Rudolf Virchow. Okay, clear? So they said that plants and animals, they are made up of cells. Sachilidin and Sachwan said that. Okay, and then one more point was added by Rudolf Virchow, that the cells exist from the pre-existing cells. This is an image showing you Sachilidin, Sachwan and Rudolf Virchow. Three of them, okay, they gave the cell theory. Initially, the cell theory was given by Sachilidin and Sachwan only. Now, what is the modern cell theory? So, there are 3 principles of modern cell theory. That living organisms are made up of cells and cell product. Second, cell are the basic life units. Okay. Next is cell arise from the pre-existing cells. This is the modern cell theory. Okay. Exceptions, viruses. Viruses are acellular. They are not cellular organisms. Now, virus can consist of DNA or RNA as a genetic material, and along with the genetic material, they also consist of the protein code. This protein code protects this genetic material, protects the nucleic acid from degradation. Okay. So these viruses cannot exist independently. So need a particular host to infect. Okay. They lack self-regulation and reproduction as well. Okay. So viruses, they cannot reproduce by themselves. So viruses, when they enter into the host cell, then they use the host machinery to reproduce. The next question is, what structure and functional attributes must a cell have to be called a living cell? Okay, attributes means features, characteristic. What structure and functional features must a cell have to be called a living cell? So let's have a look at the answer. So cell is the structure and functional unit of living organism. Structural unit means cells. Every organism is made up of cells. Functional unit means cells are performing all the vital functions. It is doing metabolism, respiration, excretion. Okay. Single cell is capable of independent existence and also perform essential functions of the life. So single cell can perform all the functions here, all the life processes. Okay. Now, all cells have certain functions in common so as to carry out the basic life processes. Okay, so these cells, they can carry out the basic life processes such as respiration, excretion. Okay. Now, but the differential distribution of the organelles gives cells a distinct characteristics. Means the organelles and the cells and the tissue, they perform specialized functions. Okay, now all organisms, they are made up of these cells. Okay, cells organize themselves into tissues and then organs. Organs combine to form the organ system. Okay, these are the level of organization. Cell will combine to form tissues. Tissues will combine to form organs. Organs will combine to form organ system, and from the organ system, if they combine together, it gives you entire organism. Okay, clear? So they are forming the building blocks of organism cell. The property of totipotency is capable of developing into a new organism. So what is totipotency? Totipotency is the ability of the cell to give rise to a new organism. Okay. Now, beside forming the structure unit, they perform different specialized functions as well. Now, thus exhibiting division of labor, that is cell organelles, are specified in their functions. So, division of labor means a particular cell is performing a particular function. Okay, if we talk about at the cell level, you have these nervous neurons which perform specific function. You have RBCs which perform specific functions. Okay, cell organelles, they also perform specific functions like mitochondria. Okay, it is producing energy in the form of ATP. Okay, then you have other organelles like lysosomes, which are known as the societal bags. Okay, so these organelles are also performing specific functions. So this is known as division of the labor. So here you can see a cell consists of a cell membrane, also known as plasma membrane. This is made up of phospholipid bilayer. It is selectively permeable barrier, controls entry and exit of the substances. Then cytoplasm, it is watery solution with organic or inorganic compounds. It is site of metabolic reaction. So see, in cytoplasm, a lot of biochemical reaction occurs. Okay, which requires water also. And it provides material for the growth as well. Now, next structure is nucleus. It contains the DNA, nucleolus, and chromatin in the nucleoplasm. Okay. What are the functions? Stores and transmit genetic information and controls the cell activity. This is the image of the nucleus, you can see. So nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear envelope, and you can see here nuclear pores are also present. Then you can see Golgi apparatus, also known as Golgi complex. So it is a stack of flat disc-shaped sacs known as cisternae. Okay, here you can see this image showing you Golgi apparatus. It has a cis phase and a trans phase. Clear? So cisternae, they are present in the Golgi apparatus. Clear? Now next one is the endoplasmic reticulum. It is a network of membrane, rough and there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, rough and smooth. Rough endoplasmic reticulum is associated with the ribosomes. So RER is involved in protein synthesis, SCR involved in lipid synthesis. Next is mitochondria, which is known as the powerhouse of the cell. It is also a double membrane structure with cristae. Cristae, they are the powerhouse of the cell and produces ATP through the respiration. Okay, this is an image of the mitochondria, and above this is an image of the endoplasmic reticulum. Alright, so next are lysosomes. So lysosomes, they are membrane-bound vesicles. They consist of the digestive enzyme, or you can say hydrolytic enzyme, and they break down the cellular waste. Okay, the cellular waste can be toxic to the cell. Clear? So here you can see this is an image of the lysosomes. Lysosome consists of these hydrolytic enzymes. So if lysosome burst within this cell, then what will happen? The component of the cell will degrade. So lysosomes, they are known as societal bags because they can, you can say, degrade the damaged cell as well. Next is vacuoles. So vacuoles are membrane-bound spaces. Vacuoles are also surrounded by a membrane known as tonoplast. So vacuole, they store water, they store sap, waste products, and maintains the cell turgor. Okay, so all of these factors, structural and functional attribute is to be called the living cell. So living cell will consist of all of these organelles you can see. Okay, clear? These are the structural and functional attributes a cell have so as to be called as the living cells. Okay, clear? So prokaryotes, what about prokaryotes? They are also living cells. Okay, so instead of nucleus, they have the nucleoid. Okay. Now in prokaryotes, which are unicellular, a single cell is performing all the functions. Okay. Their membrane-bound organelles are absent actually. The next question, briefly give the contribution of the following scientists in formulating the cell theory. The first option is Rudolf Virchow. Okay, you have to, and second is Sachtleben and Sachman. Okay, you have to give the contribution of these scientists. Okay, for more information, you read NCERT section 8.2. Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. Okay, first let's talk about Rudolf Virchow. So what was the contribution of Rudolf Virchow? Okay, Rudolf Virchow says cells arise from pre-existing cells. Okay, so in 1855, Rudolf Virchow established that cell divide to form new cells. So he gave this term omnis cellula is cellula, which means cells, they arise from pre-existing cells. And there is no spontaneous generation of these cells. So he proved cell theory applies to both healthy and diseased tissue as well. Okay, also contributed to archaeology and anthropology. So these are some of the other contribution of Rudolf Virchow. Okay, this is an image showing you Sechelidin, Szechuan and Rudolf Virchow. Okay. Let's talk about the contribution of Sechelidin and Szechuan. Now, they were the first to observe cells and the cell membrane. Cell membrane is also known as the plasma membrane. Okay, they proposed the cell theory and they sell all the living things. Okay, plants and animals, they are made up of cells or products of the cells. Now, Szechuan in 1839, he discovered plasma membrane in the animal cells. So, he was a zoologist, so he was working on the animal cell. Then Sechelidin, he was a botanist. So, he focused on the plant cell and identified the cell wall as a unique feature of the plant cell. So, the animal cell, they lack cell wall. So, instead of cell wall, it consists of cell membrane. Whereas Sechelidin, he said that plant cell, they are made up of cell wall, and in plant, cell wall is made up of, majorly it is made up of cellulose. Okay, so both of them together establish the foundation of the modern cell theory. Okay, now we know about the cell theory. Okay, what are the main postulates of the cell theory? Okay, all living organisms are made up of cells and cells exist from the pre-existing cells. Okay, now their combined work established that living organisms are made up of cells. Cells are the basic structural unit of the organisms. Okay, plant cells have cell walls which are made up of cellulose, and animal cells lack the cell wall. And all cells come from the pre-existing cells. Now let's discuss a long answer type question. Okay, what is the question here? See, is extra genomic DNA present in the prokaryotes and eukaryotes? If yes, indicate their location in the body, location in both the types of organisms. See, you have the chromosomal DNA, okay, genomic DNA, which is present within the nucleus. Okay, in eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, you have the nucleus present in a region known as nucleoid. So, apart from this genomic DNA, is there any additional DNA as well? Okay, is there any extra nuclear DNA also present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes? Okay, so if yes, you have to indicate the location in both the types of the organism. Where is this extra nuclear DNA present? So let's have a look at the answer. So yes, extra genomic DNA is present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, in eukaryotes, they are present in chloroplast, which is a plastid, and mitochondria as well. Okay, so chloroplast have its own DNA, mitochondria also have its own DNA. Okay, which is small circular DNA actually. Clear? So in prokaryotes, plasmids are present. Okay, so prokaryotes like bacteria. So in addition to the, you can say the genomic DNA, you have this plasmid as well, which is again small circular double-stranded DNA. Plasmids are also used as a vector in biotechnology. Okay, clear? Now prokaryotic plasmids, they are circular DNA molecules. Okay, in these plasmids, some genes are also present, such as antibiotic resistance genes. These plasmids are used in bacterial transformation as well. So a DNA fragment is inserted into these plasmids, okay, which is known as cloning actually. Cloning of the DNA fragment or cloning of the gene. And then this recombinant DNA, okay, this is transferred into the host cell, such as bacteria. This is known as transformation. Okay. So this aid in bacterial reproduction also. Plasmid also help in bacterial reproduction as well. Okay. You must have heard about the conjugation. There it is involved. Okay. So this is, you can see this image showing you plasmid present in the bacteria. So this is the bacterial DNA. Apart from this small double-stranded circular DNA is also present, which is known as the plasmid. Okay, and what about eukaryotes? Eukaryote consists of the mitochondrial DNA and the chloroplast DNA. So see, chloroplast and mitochondria, they have their own DNA, they have their own ribosomes also. So eukaryote, they have 80S ribosomes, but in mitochondria and chloroplast, they have 70S ribosomes. Okay, so it is thought that these mitochondria and chloroplast, they were a bacteria which were engulfed by a eukaryotic cell, and there was a symbiotic association between these two cells, and these bacteria, okay, they got transformed into chloroplast and mitochondria. Okay, so mitochondrial DNA, this is circular DNA. It has 16,500 base pairs, contain 37 essential genes, you can say. That's why mitochondria is a semi-autonomous organelle. Okay, it has 30 genes for oxidative phosphorylation also. This occurs in mitochondria, oxidative phosphorylation, through which ATP is generated. Okay, now it is a part of total human genome as well. So human genome consists of 20,000 to 25,000 genes. These are the total genes present in the human genome. Okay, so these 13 genes, they are the part of this total human genome as well. So after human genome sequencing, it was found that the total number of genes are 20,000 to 25,000. So these genes in the mitochondria, these are also the part of this. This is the image showing you mitochondria. It has its own mitochondrial DNA. Okay, here you can see it consists of its own DNA. Then about the chloroplast, which is a plastid. So there are three kind of plastid. You can see they are double membrane bound organelles. They are found in the plants. They contain circular DNA as well as their ribosomes, which is 70S ribosomes. They are also semi-autonomous organelles because they can synthesize some of the proteins themselves, and they can divide by binary fission as well. This is an image showing you type of the plastids: leucoplast, chromoplast, and the chloroplast as well. This is the chloroplast. You can see this is the leucoplast. Leucoplast, they are further of three types: myeloplast, elioplast, and proteoplast. Next question: structure and function are correlatable in living organism. Okay, can you justify this by taking plasma membrane as an example? Okay, clear? So let's have a look at the answer for this question. See, in animals and plants, plasma membrane structure and functions are correlated. Okay, so evolution takes place in such a manner that a particular structure is designed in such a way that it will perform a particular function. Okay, so a cell membrane consists of proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. Okay, now the protein component present in the membrane acts as a solute channel, allowing the flow of minerals, hormones, and cellular information. See, polar molecules are also transported across the membrane with the help of these carrier proteins. So these proteins play a very important role. They can flow inside the plasma membrane. So that's why we call it as a fluid mosaic model. Clear? They allow the transfer of the minerals, hormones, and cellular information as well. This is an image showing you the plasma membrane. So you have the phospholipid bilayer, you have integral proteins, peripheral proteins, and these are the, you can say, sugar molecules. Sugar molecules basically which are carbohydrate, they are present in the form of glycoproteins and glycolipids, and you have this cholesterol molecule as well. In case of plants where minerals are absorbed actively from the soil, the plasma membrane possesses proteinaceous carriers. Okay, these carriers, proteins, they help in the transfer of these minerals as well. Now, the oligosaccharides attached to the membrane serve as recognition centers. Okay, means carbohydrates. So, they help in recognizing foreign entities before allowing the entry into the cell. So, that's why the plasma membrane is selectively permeable, because these oligosaccharides serve as recognition centers. So, they recognize the foreign molecules or foreign entities before allowing them to enter into the cell. Okay, now this plasma membrane has an amphipathic nature, means hydrophilic head faces the aqueous environment and hydrophilic tails forms a kind of barrier. Okay, hydrophilic means water loving, hydrophobic means water repelling. Heads are hydrophilic, tails are hydrophobic. They maintain cellular boundary and recognition as well. Okay, sometimes glycocalyx is also present. Okay, in the cell membrane, that helps in the cellular attachment. This is present in the bacteria actually. Okay, so in bacteria you have glycocalyx, cell wall, and the plasma membrane. Now, next question: eukaryotic cells have organelles which may, what are the options? Not be bound to a membrane, bound by a single membrane, bound by a double membrane, or you can say you have to group the various subcellular organelles into these three categories. So let's discuss the answer. See, cell organelles with no membrane in eukaryotic cell, ribosomes occur freely in the cytoplasmic matrix. They are attached to the outer cytoplasmic surface of the rough endoplasmic reticulum as well as the nuclear membrane. And ribosomes are also found in matrix of the mitochondria called as mitoribosomes. Ribosomes are found in stroma of the plastid, also known as plastidoribosome. So you can see ribosome, they have larger and a smaller subunit. Okay, cell organelles with single membrane. So lysosome, they have a single membrane around it. Okay, lysosomes occur in animal cells and protozoans also. Prokaryotic cell lack lysosomes. Remember this. Number of lysosomes varies with the cell type. Okay, cell organelles with single membrane. We were talking about the lysosomes. So lysosome consists of the hydrolytic enzymes. Okay. Now, cell organelle like spherosomes and microbodies also possess single membranes. Clear? So we have lysosomes, spherosomes, and microbodies. So within microbodies are peroxisomes and glyoxysomes. Okay, cell organelles with double membrane. So mitochondria is a double membrane bound structure. It has outer and inner membrane. Inner compartment is known as matrix. Outer membrane is continuous. Inner membrane have infoldings known as cristae. Now, chloroplast and nucleus, they are also double membrane bound organelles. So with this, we end this session. I hope this session was quite knowledgeable for you. We'll meet you in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.